Hello GDQ, I am Mrmanny620, and this is my SGDQ 2019 submission video for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles GBA. Easy difficulty. This run is super fun. It's very hard to optimize, and I think it would be a great addition to the marathon. So, this is me just starting a new save here, and we'll get started. So this run takes place in 16 stages, 4 for each turtle, and it's a simple action beat 'em up where you have to go along each screens and defeat all the enemies before progressing. Now these Mousers, they take one hit and they die. So it's basically just optimization of killing them as fast as possible, making sure that going back and forth as optimally as possible. So we take the left path because it's faster. These thugs here, they take one full combo. And we take them off in a specific pattern. Here we have a vertical platforming section while avoiding Mousers. It's actually a lot harder than it looks. Now this little section is a tunneling section where we have to attack some missiles and some more Mousers. So, this run has a lot of different enemies to deal with, and a lot of different fighting styles from the turtles. Leonardo has great reach, and he has decent attack speed. But he definitely has a problem when it comes to that attack right there. He has an attack called a recoil attack, or every turtle does, and his recoil attack is really good, but it has a habit of knocking down enemies you don't want to knock down because of its big reach. So it has a nice reach, but sometimes a little too far. Now the recoil attack also deals damage to you yourself when you deal a hit, which is very important because at the end of each level your health drains, but the level won't actually finish until your health is completely drained. So we want to make sure that we take as much damage as possible while going as fast as possible before the end of each level, so the next level can load. Now, every turtle has their own little auto-scroller stage. This one's about 2 minutes long. This is my current personal best of 27:15. As of recording this, the current world record is 26:56, held by Alametnas, and just shoutouts to him for coming up with pretty much all of the strats to this run. So in this stage, we're basically just killing all the Mousers with our laser. And coming up very soon, we're going to start taking damage. Because green health pack that you just saw, it will show up in the final little boss with this wall. And we want to make sure that we take as much damage as possible so that when we grab the health pack, we're not at full. Now you'll also see under our health we have 3 little bombs. In this stage, the recoil attack button actually uses one of those bombs, and it does a lot of damage on this final boss. So the wall has 3 hitboxes, and they take some time to regenerate, but we want to just keep circling around the wall to deal damage, and occasionally use bombs to take out the Mousers that are coming for us. So there we just got that health pack, and there, the wall's down. Alright, so that's the end of Act 2. Now Act 3, this act can be very difficult because we run into a lot of these second tier enemies which not only take a full combo but a recoil attack. You'll also be seeing a full charge attack, which is when that bar underneath the turtle's health gets charged into the red. Now, we really want to make sure that enemies don't land on the ground. They can land on the ground from any full charge attack, or any charge attack, any recoil attack, or any combo finisher. So we want to make sure that at any time possible, if we're dealing a recoil attack, a finisher, or a charge attack to any enemy, it will kill it. Because if it is on the ground, you cannot deal damage to it, and you lose a lot of time waiting for it to get off the ground. So on those screens, you saw a lot of full charge attacks. There was one screen with a ninja where after we did a full charge attack where Leonardo sweeps down the screen, we did an immediate recoil attack to take out the rest of the health on those second tier enemy ninjas. That needs to be timed actually fairly well, because we do a full charge attack immediately after, and if it's done too fast, the ninjas that load directly after actually don't take damage. So we need to make sure that that's timed correctly. These screens are just a couple Mausers. Just take them out efficiently. Nothing too special about these rooms. On this level especially, you start to see a lot of timing. Making sure that we're having enemies come to us in a specific fashion. Because some enemies will spawn on other levels, and we purposely wait for them to come to us. Which is much faster since we're dealing with other enemies at the time. And you'll see it on this one here. So we go through this pattern, and there's an enemy that's going to come on the bottom left there, but we don't go down to get it because it's going to come right up. Now here, we specifically wait a little bit to start charging a full charge attack for that laser guy to come down into that attack, which alters the AI of the enemies to want to come down to us, because the less enemies there are on the ground, the more likely or the faster it'll be that they'll come down to attack us. So since that guy's gone, the other guys will come. So Act 4, Giant Mauser. Very simple. We do a regular attack to start, and then we just spam recoil attacks. It deals a lot of damage to the Giant Mauser, and it deals a lot of damage to us, and we should be at very low health. When it does this, we just do full combos because it still does a lot of damage. Yeah, so that's a pretty decent fight. If you miss any of your recoil attacks, it can get a little hazy, and you don't want him to jump too much since you don't get too much air with the recoil attacks and you can't reach him most of the time. But as long as you keep him locked in those recoil attacks, you should be fine. Act 1 of Raph. We go right into the next turtle. So Raphael has a couple extra hits, and his range is a little bit less than Leo's, but it's still pretty decent. And his recoil attack comes out slower. But he has a pretty nice full charge attack that we'll see later in this level. So these green thugs, these flippy thugs, are the bane of my existence. They're super terrible, and they will, actually, I think it happens right here. No, it actually doesn't. They like to flip instead of just walk, which causes them to do one of two things. One, you miss them immediately, or they just like to run away from you. So here we do a couple hits and then go right into a full combo. We basically kind of just stop our combo from happening, but there he's up against the wall, so we use the full charge, so we use the full combo and the recoil attack instead to take out the second tier enemy. Here we keep these enemies stun locked. Go up to take care of this guy. There we make sure that that enemy on the ground is just not attacking us, and we deal some basic hits so that it doesn't attack us, and then we can lock him in the combo with the second tier enemy as he drops down. But we don't want to make sure that we hit that second tier enemy in the air, because we don't want him getting knocked down. That was some fancy little movement tech to climb up the building much faster than if we had dropped down all the way. And here we see his full charge attack, which basically just takes away a full bar of a second tier. This screen is just making sure that we get these guys locked in combos. and just going back and forth between the enemies as they get close to us, not wasting any time. Now this can actually be pretty hard because the range on Raph is decent, but sometimes you can miss that thug in the back. Making sure that it's aligned is very nice. Now that full charge attack can actually be, it's very useful because of, it starts as the enemies are walking into the level, which means they're still in a loading state. So we can already make sure we preemptively get damage on the first possible frame. This is another, same as the other screen before, where we're basically just manipulating them together. There was a little bit of an error. I get hit by that thug there, but it's not really that big of a deal because we kind of clean up very nicely. Usually you're supposed to jump over, attack the charge with the regular thug, go to the right side, and then attack the charge with another regular thug. But there I just had to do some cleanup. Alright, Act 2, Casey boss fight. This fight is actually very specific. Every time he comes up, we do a recoil attack, so he whiffs. And at the end of the first full charge attack and the third full charge attack, we do a recoil attack for extra damage. And then we do a full combo to finish him off. Now, the original strat used to just be doing 4 full charge attacks, no recoil attacks at the end of the first and the third one. And it technically is about the same speed, but the 2 recoil attacks actually deal enough damage so that our health drains fast enough and we actually save around a second. So the extra little bit of damage that we take because of those recoil attacks actually helps us a lot there, with the end of the level loading pretty fast. Once again, right into Act 3. This game moves by pretty fast. This is a pretty fast auto-scroller. It's just going through, it's not even an auto-scroller, it's a race between Casey. Making sure that we avoid the obstacles, avoid the gas at the end because that's health, and hitting all the speed boost. 28:51 is pretty decent. 28:30 is the fastest possible time. So a 28:51 with a little bit of a slip up hitting the cones at the beginning. Not a big deal. Pretty decent. Now here we are on Act 4, probably the worst boss fight in the game. You can lose a lot of time to this fight because of 2 things. Casey and Casey. Now Casey helps you out in this fight, and he does 2 things that you don't want him to do. Knock enemies down and deal very bad damage. He doesn't even deplete a full bar of these first tier enemies that I'm dealing with right now. He actually only deals half of a bar. You just saw it in the top right. And he knocks them on the ground with every single hit. So the goal is to just make sure that you're cleaning them up correctly and that Casey doesn't get in the way. Casey can also get in the way of the Dragon Face boss fight because he'll just knock him down constantly. However, if you get him locked in full charges, then it's actually not that bad. And that was actually a really good fight. Sometimes that fight can get much worse because Casey will just knock him down immediately and you can't deal any damage to him. And he takes a while to get up. He does a lot of different attacks. Sometimes he likes to grab you and there's no way to break out of it. That wastes a lot of time. That fight is extremely difficult to do efficiently. So here we are on Donatello, Act 1. Now we do a recoil attack there because we want to take damage, of course, for the end of the level. And it's decently fast there. Donatello has great range, however he doesn't have a double jump. But he does have a great horizontal movement. And he does have a way to get up ledges with the little special jump with his bow staff that he has. His full charge is also really good. We're going to see it right here. Usually you only do 1 combo there, but you have to wait for them to drop down. So that's technically still faster. And sometimes you can capture all 4 of them in there. So there we do a full charge there. And then we capture those all in a full combo, which is quite nice. This is another one of those screens where we just defeat enemies in the most optimal order possible based on where they're coming from and where they are at any given time. Because of his range, it's actually... He actually, because of his range, is very nice for attacking on waves of enemies. Now here, I'm usually supposed to do 1 recoil attack to take out 3 enemies. Or 1 full charge to take out 3 enemies, and then another full charge to take out the other 3 enemies. But for some reason, I just whiffed all my attacks there. That's a real rarity. Normally, he has such big range on his full charge that he just hits all of them. So that was a little unfortunate, but 95% of the time it works out. Act 2 here, we just have to go to the other sides of the different sides of the area and turn on the computers. First room is pretty simple. It's just doing our horizontal leaps across. But the left side is a little bit more specific. We actually can't skip that first cycle of lasers, so we actually have to wait and just jump as soon as they end. So here we you're supposed to do 2 vertical leaps right in a row here to get to this computer. And then, yeah, you purposely jump over the next one to get on the spikes. And you're supposed to do another dash into a horizontal leap there to get across. For some reason, my dashes weren't coming out. When you double tap right, or when you double tap horizontal direction on the controller, you automatically start a dash. Another full charge there. This laser is unskippable. This laser is unskippable. The laser right above it is, and it's very hard, and if you mess it up, it can be very bad. Another full charge there. Full charge there. Capture both of those enemies in a single combo. Finish them off. So, the good thing... So despite being slow in those first couple rooms, taking more damage on the spikes than I would have wanted, I was actually not at full health, which meant that the ending of that level was slightly faster. So even though it technically was slower than usual, the trade-off of taking damage is still decent enough where it can help in some cases. This is the longest auto-scroller in the game, and is unfortunately the most boring auto-scroller in the game. So this is just 3 minutes of avoiding spikes and shooting at missiles until the end of the level when we start taking damage, so that the level ends faster, like always. However, I think this is a good time to talk about why I started speedrunning this game. This game was very much in my childhood. I played it on the Game Boy all the time. It was like my favorite game. And one day, in 2017, it was around November, I remembered this game. I thought to myself, you know what, let me try playing it again. It might be fun. So I got a GBA emulator because I found the cartridge, but I didn't have it at the time. Or at least I didn't know where it was at the time. But I have the cartridge now. I found it. But I downloaded the emulator because I wanted to play it on stream and start speedrunning it because I thought, you know, why not? And I heavily enjoyed it. And it kind of brought back the memories of what it was playing this game as a child. And it felt really nice. And that's kind of the message I bring with this game, is that you may play a bunch of different games for your speed game, and some of them might be long, they might be, you know, huge RPGs, they might be long adventure games, they might be, I don't know, it just, there's a lot of different options from the games that you speedrun. But this game is kind of obscure. So, my message is, you know, if you're ever getting, you know, tired or flustered with your other speed game, pick up something different. Pick up something new. Pick up something more obscure that not a lot of people have run, because only 5 people have run this game, or have run the easy difficulty. And only 2 of us are active right now, me and Mrmanny620. And sometimes it feels nice to play a game that you remember, or isn't that great, or was obscure back then and still is. And despite the community for this game being non-existent pretty much, I still heavily enjoy running this game because it was one of my favorites. So try it out. Try running a game that you might not think of at first. You may enjoy it, you may not, but try it. You might be surprised at what you might find. So there we took a lot of damage. And the level ends super fast. And that's the end of Act 3. Act 4 of Donatello. Very scary level 2. we have to turn on the 3 computers in the top 3 levels on the right, center, and left sides. Now that vertical jump right there just dodges that ninja's attack, if you could barely see that ninja. Once the computers are on, the ninjas can be damaged. And what we do is we just get them together and do full charge attacks. Now the computers will turn off. That was also a really good fight because they kind of grouped together very nicely. Now the computers will turn off after a period of time, and you have to turn them back on. And that can lose upwards up to 20-30 seconds, depending on how much damage you did in the first cycle. So losing a 1 cycle can be very bad. But most of the time, we get them in a nice area with the initial attack that Donatello does. Here we are, Michelangelo, Act 1. This is a pretty long level, and Michelangelo is probably the worst turtle. He has 0 range whatsoever with his attacks, and all of his attacks are very little damage. He has a long combo. But this level is a lot of just, once again, optimized enemy placement, making sure that you get to enemies the fastest way possible, but enemies come to you in the fastest way possible. There's also a lot of making sure that you don't knock down enemies with finishers, because even though Michelangelo's range is tiny, his finisher range is quite massive. And it can take down enemies you don't want to take down. You can see it happening on this level right here, where he has no range whatsoever, and it's causing a lot of enemies to kind of just stagger and not get hit by full combos. Now there it looked like there was a bit of a problem there, but actually no, because of the enemy that comes down at the top, it's reliant on that last enemy, the speed of that room. So if I just kill that last enemy as fast as I kill every other enemy in the room, it doesn't matter. So I've always had a problem with that screen because one of those enemies gets knocked down by a finisher. So I tried experimenting with something there. Didn't necessarily work, so it's not worth it to try next time. However, that was very good, making sure that the sword guy doesn't hit me. These laser guys, they're not actually that dangerous. They're very dangerous if you don't jump to them in time and they can shoot you, but they're not actually that dangerous if you get to them and start combo them immediately. With a lack of enemies on the screen, it's actually not that bad. Michelangelo also has a really weird thing where when he's dashing and you start running in the other direction, he does a very slow flip before you can control him again. We want to avoid doing that at all costs by dashing, stopping our momentum entirely, and then dashing in the other direction. Now in this room, it does not matter what full combos we do in this room. Because so many enemies spawn, enemies that fly across the room from getting hit from a full combo, or just a finisher, will get locked in another combo and die from the next combo, so that screen is actually less intimidating than it looks. This auto-scroller, pretty easy. Just gotta collect 70 out of the 100 crystals. And then we take a lot of damage at the end to make sure that the level ends faster. It's a pretty basic auto-scroller. You can actually do flips on the ceiling if you press the X button. You just loop-de-loop around the entire room. It's actually pretty funny. I once did it in a run one time, and I was just like, whoa, that came out of nowhere. But yeah, once again, getting only the green life packs when we're not at full health. Or when we don't take damage before we want to, we want to be safe. Because sometimes I'll take like a couple hits before I want to when I want to be safe, so I take the health pack. So I have my hits routed specifically so that as soon as I get the 70th crystal, I start taking hits here. And then I just dodge the rest. and then I take one more hit at the end when I know I can. So yeah, pretty self-explanatory. I would be a lot safer with damage in the marathon, because I have died on the Donatello autoscroller before, and it's very bad. It's very unfun. Act 3. This act is very annoying. It's a lot of hard movement and these monsters. We deal... The combo on these monsters is a dash attack, full combo, followed by a single hit and a recoil attack. It's very nice because we take damage from the recoil attack, and it does a lot of damage. But because of all the fire and times we have to do the recoil attack, damage actually, we want to have a lot more health in this level than usual. There's the flip that is very unfortunate to get. If you take too long to defeat the enemies, then they do attacks and they just don't stop wailing on you. So defeating them as fast as possible is important. Alright, Michelangelo's wall jumping from the first levels back. We just do it in the opposite fire pillar. We also use recoil attacks in this level and a couple other levels in the game for vertical momentum, keeping ourselves in the air as long as possible. Now these monsters specifically, for some reason, like these types of monsters, they actually load onto the screen differently, or their hitbox is different. I don't know what it is about it, but for some reason they load onto the screen later than the other monsters, so you actually have to wait a little bit longer to do the dash attack, or they won't get hit by it. And that's seen actually very prevalently in the last level, which is just 6 monsters. So now the first one, because he loads onto the screen instantly, he gets to do his attacks much sooner, so we do a full charge attack instead of get up and close and personal with him. It's a lot safer, and it does the damage in pretty much the same amount of time. Like that monster, pretty much able to attack it instantly. This one, you have to wait a second, or it won't get hit. I've encountered that problem many a times before, and it's really annoying. That time we just stun lock that ninja. And then it's just a race to the finish after those sword ninjas. And time ends when Michelangelo's health finishes draining. And boom. 27:15.5 exactly. And that's the run. Pretty short, really fun, a lot of stuff to go over. It's very fast-paced, and I think this would be very fun to have in the marathon. We've seen a lot of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles games of that variety before. And, yeah, sorry about that. Of that variety before. And I think it would be very neat to have this game, this TMNT game in the marathon specifically. So, thank you guys for watching. I hope you consider this getting in the marathon. And, yeah, thanks so much, GDQ, for doing what you're doing. You're amazing.